Four Democrat House members arrived in El Salvador's capital, San Salvador, and met with U.S. Embassy officials to advocate for the release of an illegal immigrant, Kilmar Garcia, who was deported there by the Trump administration. So why are Democrats going to such great lengths to advocate on behalf of someone who was living illegally in our country? So here to discuss this and a bit more, Congressman Warren Davidson. He serves on the House Financial Services Committee and the Foreign Affairs Committee. He represents Ohio's 8th Congressional District. Congressman Davidson, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always good to see you.
Always an honor. Thank you, Tony.
Hey, before we jump into the immigration issue, I was just talking with Gordon Chang about China, the trade war there. Earlier today, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, another Ohioan, was in India touting, relationships, a good friendship with India in terms of trade and other aspects. I just want to throw this out there. I'm a bit concerned. I'm not sure that they're a great trade partner when we look at their human rights record. When I was on the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, we constantly recommended them for a country of particular concern because of the tremendous threat that Christians have in that country. I mean, do they make a great trade partner when they have such a dismal record on human rights?
You know, human rights always used to feature prominently in our negotiations with countries. It was always part of our diplomacy. And I think with India, they are a close friend. We should build an alliance with them. Our interests are very closely aligned, and so they make a good prospect for an ally. But our cultures are pretty different. And, part of our relationship should be, well, okay, you don't have to totally accept our culture, but you shouldn't be hostile to it. And religious freedom is central to what makes America America. We certainly would love to see that be more accepted in India. And I think their people would too. I mean, there's a reason a lot of people leave India for the opportunities here in America. So there's a large Indian expat community here in America. They send a lot of money back home to India, and I think they stay in America for a lot of reasons. Part of that may be religious freedom.
Well, and we certainly shouldn't be hesitant, I think, to talk about those American values such as religious freedom. I think it's when we talk about doing business, being yoked with another country, we need to talk about all those issues. All right, I'm going to shift back to El Salvador. Why are Democrats there to advocate on behalf of someone who was living illegally here in our country?
Yeah, I think they've picked this El Salvador man and described him as a Maryland man because they think, boy, here's a guy that was with a deportation order 2 separate times, living illegally in the country, aligned as an MS-13 member, not just here in the United States, but in El Salvador, which probably has a lot to do with why he left El Salvador, and in the first place, and why a citizen of El Salvador is locked up in CCOT. He's not locked up there because he's an American citizen. He's locked up there because he's an El Salvadoran and known affiliate of MS-13, if not actual member of MS-13. They think that if they can win this case, if they can keep him here, well, then effectively they can keep anybody here. And, they facilitated an invasion of our country, open borders. They want to treat non-citizens, even illegal residents, as, in the census. They want to draw congressional maps and everything, count them in the Senate, in the census, just like American citizens. They want birthright citizenship for their kids, even if neither parent is an American citizen. And just like in this case with this El Salvador citizen, they want adjudication, including years of appeals on a case-by-case basis. And if they can do that, they can essentially stop us from reversing the invasion they facilitated.
So, Congressman, did they see their opening in pressing this case because the Supreme Court has stepped in and told the Trump administration to return this individual?
Well, they saw the opening before that. That's how the case wound up before the court. It's just mind-blowing. I mean, even if you accept the premise that somehow it's constitutional for the Biden administration to facilitate an invasion of our country, it's constitutional to count non-citizens as residents for purposes of drawing congressional maps, that somehow it's constitutional to have birthright citizenship when neither parent's a citizen, and the Supreme Court's going to hear that case on May 15th. I want to be there for it. Somehow all that's constitutional. I mean, wouldn't you want to change it? And in fact, Democrats are down there in El Salvador lobbying to preserve that view of the law in America. They're fighting in every court they can to preserve that twisted view of our Constitution. I think the people of this country stand with people like President Trump. It was a big factor in the election to say, you have to be here legally. You're welcome to come, but you have to do it legally.
Yeah, there's no question about it. This was, if not the number one issue, it was certainly among the top three issues driving voters in the presidential election. We just have about a minute left. Do you see a collision course coming between the administration and the Supreme Court on this?
I hope not with the Supreme Court. I mean, clearly there's a collision course with the district courts. It's disappointing to see the Supreme Court's ruling. I think Alito might not have been blunt enough in rebuking some of his colleagues on the Supreme Court. Hopefully they land on the side of common sense. And I went to business school, not law school, but I mean, I think the basic premise has to be that there's a different expectation for American citizens than people that are here illegally and wanted, essentially fugitives in El Salvador. I mean, there has to be a different standard of justice.
Well, we will soon see. Congressman Warren Davidson, always great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony.